feeling a little sleepy? How are the energy levels? Raise your hand if you did one of the bike tour earlier. We got the brave souls out in the rain. Nice. So you are here for the innovative approaches to multimodal community-based transportation programs. So if that's not the session that you're planning to be in, you can walk out and go somewhere else. Great, everyone stayed. So I'm Deb Schrimmer. I'm the Director of Policy Development and Research at Lyft, and I'm really excited to have you all here today. We are going to be hearing from 3 fantastic speakers, and with that, I'm going to kick things off a little bit. So just to set the stage, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Lyft as a rideshare company and have taken those services, but we're actually also North America's largest shared micromobility operator, and we operate about a dozen bike share and scooter systems around the country, including the Divvy system here in Chicago. I want to touch a bit on the Divvy system. We've had some really tremendous ridership milestones in the past year, and part of the success of that comes through really exciting innovations in hardware, like our brand new e-bike, as well as our pedal bikes and docked scooters that we've recently brought to the city. But it also really comes down to the partnerships and working with local community groups to help people understand how to use the Divvy system and see this as something for them. One of the things that we're really focused on at Lyft is helping people understand that they are a bike person, and the idea of someone riding a bike isn't just that cyclist in spandex, but really it's accessible to everyone trying to use transportation to get from A to B. And so we do this in partnership with a lot of community organizations around the country. Locally here with the Divvy system, we work with tons of community partners on community group bike rides. We work with them to get feedback on how to expand the system and build more stations in new neighborhoods. And we also work with community partners that are going to be on the panel here today. So we are going to focus really on Chicago in this program. Some of our speakers originally that you may have seen on the door had some travel and COVID-related issues. So this is really a spotlight of the Divvy system, and I'm super excited to be able to showcase that here. So like I mentioned, this is our brand new docked combined micromobility program here in Chicago, where we have scooters that can be docked at the bike share station, as well as the pedal bikes and e-bikes. So this is the first place in the country where we're piloting this model, and we think it can be really exciting way to help address some of the public right-of-way issues that cities might have with cluttered parking. And we've also streamlined the membership, so it makes it really easy for riders to use both of the systems. And then equity is a really big part of this. And through this program, we have the Divvy for Everyone program, which is a $5 annual membership for income qualifying riders, which we'll hear a little bit more about from some of our speakers. So with that, how many of you yesterday heard Commissioner Biaggi talking about all of the exciting things happening in Chicago? Okay, great. So many of you will probably remember that last year, Chicago released its strategic transportation plan, and a lot of the great work that Chicago is doing is focused on expanding access to the transportation network, providing more bus lanes, building more bike lanes, and expanding bike share citywide. And so this idea of multimodal travel is really critical to that vision for Chicago. And so for Lyft here in Chicago, our multimodal vision is rideshare and Divvy. And our partners are going to talk a bit about how they work with us on these different transportation options. And our first speaker is going to be Christopher Ledbetter from the University of Chicago. He is a transportation operations manager, and he's had over 14 years in transportation, where he first began his career at First Transit as a bus operator, then dispatcher, then safety manager. Now he's with the University of Chicago's Transportation Department, where he has the opportunity to work with a diverse range of people who share the goal of delivering high-quality services that help local communities and campuses.
Well, I'll stand up for a second. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can. Hello, everyone. Good to meet everyone here. I'm from Chicago, live here, rode a bus to get here. Good to see you guys. I'm sure you're having a great time with the weather. So as Deb said, I started off in transportation years ago as a bus driver. Got fired from my other job. So let's just be real. And I thought I wanted to try something different. And why not drive a bus? I learned real quick. It was great. Got promoted to safety manager real quick. No, dispatcher, I'm sorry. Just a quick history. Dispatcher real quick. And that went well, and all of a sudden, safety manager was gone, and, hey, Chris, why don't you try this? I can drive a bus, I can dispatch, so maybe be a safety manager. Did that, and did great with that as well. And all of a sudden, I just took off. I mean, they sent me to Hammond, Indiana to work. Had a new startup. It's been exciting being in transportation. I didn't have any reason to start in transportation. I have a degree in marketing. But it's funny how the world, just, how things take you where you are. So after Hammond, ended up at University of Chicago, actually working for First Transit. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of First Transit, First Transit, First Student, First Group. And was there for a few years, and that's how I got in contact with U Chicago, because we worked for U Chicago as a vendor, all their transportation services on campus, etc. And again, I just seen the opportunity, and I switched from being First Transit to now managing First Transit, University of Chicago. So what a turnaround. And who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But so anyhow, enough about me. So we have a great night ride. There we go. So I'm going to just talk briefly about this. This leads up to the Lyft program. Our existing night ride, which we have, which is great. North, south, east, west. I'm sorry, north, south, east, central. Hope I don't have a west up there. Okay, good. And Regents Express, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. So this is our night ride. We also have daytime service, of course, but since we're only talking about night ride because it ties in with the Lyft service, it's a 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. So we're running all day, pretty much all night, if you want to call it that, all night, every day of the week. It's pretty robust, high ridership, 15-minute headways, so we have 2 buses on each route. And 30-minute headways from 11 to 4. So we got to slow it down sometime. But that's pretty good coverage for that. And this is just a little map of our area. If you're familiar with Hyde Park area, University of Chicago is like smack dab in that whole little mix of things there. And we go as far north as 48th Street, as far east as the Lakeshore Drive, as far west as Cottage Grove, and south as 63rd Street. The reason I show you this is because that's quite a bit for our campus. In my opinion, is not that large, because we're right in a smack dab in a little community there, so we don't have a lot of room like more spread out universities or colleges do. So we have a lot of coverage there for those 4 routes. So in order to supplement that, because it needed to be supplemented for various reasons. So we partnered up with Lyft. Thank God, these people are great. Glasses on, I can read sometimes I can't see. So back in 2021, September, we partnership started, and like I said, it's to supplement our fixed route, which I just showed you, which goes from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. This here goes from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m. as well. Great supplement. So you're like, why do we need this? There's various reasons why you would need something like that. I mean, sure, our buses are all over the place, but it's more of it's a fixed route, of course. With the Lyft service, of course, it's curb to curb, you know, and some people need that. So it's good to have that option, of course. And I think it's a great program we have. I mean, you got 10 rides per student. This is not only students. This is anyone with University of Chicago email ID, basically. That's how we identify our riders. So you have students, you have medical students, you have medical personnel who have that email, EDU, U Chicago. So it's a lot of people I wouldn't know. It's just too much, but it's quite a few people who have access to this program we have. And that's pretty good. $15 per month, 10 rides. So once you go past the $15, okay, it's out of your pocket. But on our campus, I mean, you can get from the top, far north as far south, our boundaries for $15. So everything is covered, pretty much. If you go outside that, pay $1 or something, whatever, out of your pocket. It's not that bad. And our current utilization is 55%. When we first started it, that rollout back in 2021, it's like 40% sign up just out the gate, boom. And it steadily went up. I mean, I don't see it slowing down. So, and this the rides showed you our current. There we go. So that's the geofence. So we had to set some boundaries, or people will be going all the way to Milwaukee, you know, off Lyft. So it pretty much mirrors our current night ride routes, our borders. I'm sorry, and that's pretty good. That's the best we can do. I mean, everything is pretty much the same. I showed you my other map. It's the same coverage, maybe a block or two, whatever. But that's pretty much the whole gist of it. And like I said, ridership is great. I answer all emails, of course. That's my job. And complaints are far, and there's not many at all in between. There's nobody complaining. They want more. Everybody wants more, but it's not to the point where, you know, we don't like this or whatever. They are ecstatic. Students, staff, faculty, whoever's using it. And I'm just grateful for Lyft. I really am. They helped me in my job, because I have to make sure everything is operational, make sure everyone's happy. We have a medical center, of course, on campus, so there's quite a bit of people that are utilizing this service we have. So that's just a quick history of what's going on. I'm gonna pass this on to
thanks.
person.
Thanks, Chris. Really excited to talk more about some of the trends we're seeing with students using multimodal services across the city. This panel features both representation from city colleges of Chicago as well as the University of Chicago. But in the middle of that, we're actually going to hear next from Trevor Clarke, who is the executive director of Working Bikes, a nonprofit organization that gives donated bicycles new life by redistributing them as tools of empowerment in local and global communities. We have a really interesting partnership with Working Bikes, and I'm really excited to have you talk more about it.
Thank you, Debs. Yeah, can folks hear me if I stay seated and leave the microphone down? No? Okay. This better? All right, thank you. How many people here are from Chicago? Nice. How many people here have heard of Working Bikes? All right. So not a bunch of new folks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Always happy to tell more people about Working Bikes. And I'd like to give a brief overview of our work and then talk specifically about the partnership with Lyft. Here we see some pictures. We've been giving old bikes new homes since 1999. If you go to the next slide. Perfect. That's our mission. So we get over 10,000 used bicycles every year. Chris just learned we get them from University of Chicago. We'll get them from individuals who donate, municipalities. Eagle Scouts will do bike drives, and we try to find every used bike the best possible home. Most of the bikes we get, we send to our international partners. I think that's a picture from the Chipego shop in Zambia, down there at the bottom right. Last year, we sent about 6,800 bikes in 15 shipping containers to our friends abroad, where they will put work into them and get them out to their communities, typically for a price of like $60 to $70. It's not straight charity, it's a social enterprise. That's what funds them and allows them to earn their livelihoods, build houses, support their kids. Feels great because the bikes that are really useful in El Salvador or Sierra Leone are not the bikes that we really need in Chicago. You know, the knobby tires, when we get those in, those are going to go abroad. But we try to have a big impact locally, and that's been growing in recent years as well. So we have a great volunteer program that during 5 volunteer sessions each week, there's one in the top right there, volunteers can come pick up skills by working with other more experienced volunteers or staff mechanics and learn how to fix bikes as they're fixing bikes that will be donated to people who need them and can't afford them around Chicago. We work with the VA, refugee resettlement organizations, transitional housing facilities, any sort of social service partner that might deal with a client base that needs that transportation and couldn't afford it on their own. So we'll give them a bike, a lock, a helmet, and a set of lights for a copay at $20 and provide free, either at cost or free maintenance for the next year, maybe even more than that. We love to see a bike that we've donated and put a little Cycle of Power sticker on it come back to the shop because the brake pads are worn out. We know somebody's using it, and that's what we love to see. We also fix and sell some bikes. We have a staff of professional mechanics. We refurbish about 15% of the bikes that are donated to us, and it's those sales that allow us to do everything else we do, all the other donations we make happen. The partnership with Lyft is the first kind of big one we've had to support training programs, and we'll talk more about that. Right? Oh yeah, here's some donations. Big ride coming up this Saturday. If anybody's sticking around in town, we'll be working with Derek Brown and Boxing Out Negativity and Obai and Equiticity, rolling through North Lawndale and Little Village. We'll be giving out 200 bikes to families in Little Village and North Lawndale in advance of that ride, and it should be a lot of fun. There were about 400 people there last year, so if you haven't biked around the west side, please join us. All right, the reason I'm on this panel is a partnership with Lyft that kicked off at the beginning of this year. We called it the Community Mechanic Training Program. And the goal was to work with some of the populations that we've donated bikes to pass along some skills and prepare people to enter the bicycle workforce. So we ran 2 cohorts starting in January. They were 6 weeks each. Each week consisted of 2 dedicated training classes taught by the amazing Shail Hernandez, whose arm is up in a picture in the top left. So 2 dedicated classes, 1 applied learning session where participants would work as volunteers at working bikes, refurbishing bikes for donation, or packing bikes into shipping containers. The participants all got paid to participate, $150 a week. And at the end, we're given a divvy pass, some tools, and the opportunity to apply for divvy jobs or work in the bike industry elsewhere. We ended up hiring one of the participants, and it served as a really nice way to talk to the caseworkers that we work with for referrals for our Cycle of Power program and let them know, like, if they're working with somebody who's really into bikes and wants to take it to the next level to learn some skills, they could come to Working Bikes, pick up those skills, and then hopefully spread that knowledge more, get a job with it. We ended up bringing about 6 participants from community partners. So I see Aaron up there from Revive Center, a transitional housing facility. And for some of the participants, you know, we spend every day in the warehouse, and it's filled with bikes, and it's really messy, and we're getting dirty. And the partnership with Lyft kind of forced us to make a very intentional program and then celebrate successes at the end. And the picture in the top right there, we had some news media, we had folks from the city, folks from Lyft, and I loved how proud everybody who participated in the program felt. They were really happy with the diplomas. They picked up a lot from working bikes. We have a really nice supportive atmosphere, and I think they all like being there. But to put an exclamation mark at the end with a celebration of completing the program and then a certificate so people can go on and work in the industry was beautiful, and I think we have Lyft to thank for that. So please consider rolling with working bikes. Always happy to take donated bikes. We thrive on volunteers. Money's appreciated. Let people know about us. And I got some contact info up here. I'll hand the mic off to John.
Thanks so much, Trevor. Finally, we're going to hear from John Brophy, who's the Director of Sustainability and Energy Management for City Colleges of Chicago, where he's been for the last 10 years. And John's going to talk a little bit about a free Divvy membership program for students and the expanded CTA UPass for part-time students.
Thanks, Debs. How's everybody doing today? I'm rolling without slides, so I'm going to stand up. But the jacket, I'm buttoning the jacket, though. No slides. And the bike tie. You can't see from out there, but I'm wearing a tie. It's got bikes on it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your attention and focus on mobility solutions. I'm guessing we have an interesting mix of folks in the audience in terms of whether you make policy or whether you sell that policy. But I always err on the side of the people who are the implementers. The Sean Weidells of the world are some of my heroes. But lately, I've been looking back at there's been a long list of CDOT commissioners before Gia Biaggi, and she's great. And the list is, I just had to write them down because I was like, wait a second. We had Gabe Klein, Scott Kubley, now we got Gia, and you got Ben Gomberg. I don't know if he ever made commissioner, but he was where bike sharing started in Chicago under Mayor Daley. Mayor Daley the younger for Chicagoans in the crowd. That was 2 mayors ago. And then we had Ram, and now we have Lori. And under each mayor, one of the common themes I would say was that, so I'm a biker, and so I can say this about bikers because I'm one of the bikers, but we're all jerks. But it's who we are. We come by it honestly, and in some cases it's very necessary. So I'll leave it there. I'm not going to badmouth this too much in the mobility conference. But maybe it doesn't matter who's mayor. Maybe it doesn't matter who was the head of CDOT because we were going to advocate for more protected bike lanes. We were going to advocate for bike sharing. We were going to advocate for solutions in the city that works. So I would say we were getting it done pretty good. And then it just kept doubling. And it just doubled again, I think, this last year. This last year, I think they put in more protected bike lanes than ever, for sure. And we also got Divvy expanded. And that happened over a number of years, too. So City Colleges of Chicago's Divvy story is also Chicago's Divvy story. We met with Elliot Greenberger, early in the process about how to get about student discounts and made clear that we wanted Divvy stations at our colleges. And it just over year, 10 years now, and we're going to be at 10 years of Divvy in 2023 on my birthday, June 28th. In case anybody's thinking, you got to give some gifts. This summer, now that we're invited out into the world again to parties and conferences. So over 10 years, one of the first stations that was an end of the line station, like an edge of the spider web, because Divvy expands in concentric circles in a spider web formation. You don't want to be more than 3 blocks from any other Divvy station. And so one of those stations was Kennedy King College, where it was at 63rd and Halsted, and we got a station there, and it was a really big deal. because there's a lot of chicken and egg conversations you have with stakeholders, and they're like, oh, but there's nowhere to go around there if we don't have other divvy stations, and the students don't have a discount code. And I'm like, these are very good points. Let's work on those things. And so the question is, like, if you want the solution to happen, are you going to work on it? Or are you going to say it's a reason why we can't work on it? And that's a weird way of putting it, but I've had that conversation so many times in so many different ways that it's a mindset issue. It's whether you want the thing to succeed or not. So I was joking with Debs earlier about, look what happens when you want something to succeed. So Debs' team at Lyft, Johnson A. Johnson, Naya Toussaint, a few other great people in policy, Kara Bader, and came to us and let us know about Divvy for Everyone, and that they had been able to change the definitions of who qualifies for Divvy for Everyone to include college students that could prove through financial aid eligibility that Divvy for Everyone should apply to them. And so I was like, this is great news, but I'm not going to tell my students anything yet. Can we get it for all city colleges of Chicago students? Not just the 75% of them who qualify for student financial aid, but like we have 100% of students. And why am I going to offer a benefit to 75% of students? And then during the pandemic, it became 85% of students that qualified for student financial aid. And I'm like, whoa, 85%? Because I actually had to pull that number to prove it, that we absolutely could use this program community-wide within city colleges. So they said, you know what, great, but we still have to have some sort of vetting of this. We can sell you the codes at the Divvy for Everyone price. So we bought 2,700 codes for $13,500, and don't ask Debs for that same deal. She's not going to give it to you. You're going to have to pay a little bit more for that, but negotiate. So we get those passes, and we got to announce it at Olive Harvey College, where they were putting in a Divvy station, which again, big moment when you move the goalposts intentionally. Divvy station at Olive Harvey is at 103rd and Stony Island, which for those of you from Chicago, again, I'm speaking to the Chicago crowd, but it's pretty far south. We're on a grid system, so consider that about 10 miles, give or take, south. And we're a system that started downtown to keep growing in that manner. And this summer, too, I got it in writing, so I can talk about this. We're getting a Divvy station at Daly College, which is at 76th and Pulaski, and Wilbur Wright College at Narragansett and Montrose. So both northwest and southwest side, about as far as you can get in either direction. So I'm really pumped about that, because that concludes the network for city colleges of Chicago 10 years later. We got them all. And so those 2,700 codes, I don't want to crow too much about how well this worked, because there's a lot of people who are like, this isn't going to work. Why are we paying for this? This isn't that. These are all just people throw mud at the wall. Bureaucracy is full of people that throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. And it's our job to say, no, it's going to work. It's going to be fine. And one of the colleges actually were like, should we do a survey? And I'm like, this is the survey. This is the survey. You're going to find out for $5 a pop who wants to do this. This is the simplest survey you've ever done, the cheapest survey you've ever done. We're going to find out if this is a long-term thing. So this is actually the second time I've done something like this. The other was when we expanded UPass to part-time students. Anybody went to a college in a big city where they had a all-inclusive transportation pass, the local public trains, buses, something like that? Okay, I'm seeing a few hands. UPass is awesome. It's totally necessary. 100% of our students are commuters. So we were able to expand it to part-time students because the majority of our students are actually part-time students. And that's a national thing for community colleges. Animal House type colleges, our bachelor's degree institutions are like 75, like Chris represents over here, University of Chicago. They're known for their partying. For those of you out of town, University of Chicago is known not for their academics, but for their partying. And So 75% of his students are full-timers, 25 part-time, give or take, depending on the four-year institution. And ours are 2/3 part-time, 1/3 full-time, because just a different type of student population. We're a little older. We've been, we're up to things. We're taking care of grandma. We got a side job. We got an internship. We've got a few other things we're taking care of. And not to say that University of Chicago students are not taking care of the world. They are, just in a different way, and we hope our students go there one day as well. So I always want to keep our University of Chicago partners happy. They're good people. And I'm going to work for Chris someday, it sounds like. So I'm happy about that too, Chris. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much more about part-time student UPass, except it was totally necessary and it worked. We were able to get thousands of students sign up for part-time student UPass that previously didn't have access because they weren't taking 5 or more classes. And Deb actually has the numbers on how we're doing on the pilot for free divvy for city colleges, so I'll turn it over to her. But thank you all for your time.
Thanks, John. We're super excited about this program. I believe so far we've had over 10,000 rides happen with hundreds of students. So it's super exciting, and we look forward to seeing it grow. I think the trend of working with students and starting to build like a stickiness of habitual ridership with shared mobility is really important. And this is something at Lyft we do a lot of work with, nationally as well as locally here in Chicago. Almost a third of our shared micromobility riders are students. So it really speaks to the potential for partnerships with universities where, students are coming to campuses without cars and starting to really get exposed to car-free and car-light lifestyles and get familiar with how rideshare and transit and micromobility services can help them do everything they need to do. So sort of on the note of student transportation, John and Chris, I'd love to hear a bit more about how during the pandemic, travel behaviors really changed, and what sorts of trends have you seen with how students are getting around campuses differently, and what opportunities might that provide?
Well, of course, the pandemic's still going, right? I don't know. But it's been weird, to say the least. Rideshare honestly provided the opportunity for, let's just say, you're not comfortable we have shuttles all over the place. But while this pandemic is going on, sometimes you just don't want to be around other people, right? Sometimes other people are okay with it if they're masked, vaccinated, whatnot. So rideshare kind of provided that opportunity. At Lyft, you guys did. We are, Lyft rideshare is here, but the program we have with you guys provided students another option, free of charge, to just ride by themselves during the pandemic, as opposed to, hey, I just don't feel comfortable right now on shuttles. So I understand that. It's not, it's not for everybody, but the option is there, which is great. And we started off the program as just 5 days a week when we first instituted it. And just from feedback and demand, now we're 7 days a week with the program. I think that's pandemic cause, if you ask me. But the Lyft rideshare program has really taken off and went different directions just because of that as well. I'm sure the pandemic, but I honestly believe just the fact that you don't have to be around others if you don't want to. I mean, today I rode the CTA bus over here. Everyone had on a mask, but I might be the type of person, hey, I'm just not comfortable yet. I'm not there yet. That's where our program with Lyft comes in. I can just use Lyft today or this week or this month for whatever reason, So that's my 2 cents.
So I get our UPass data regularly, and I'm going to start getting my Divvy data regularly too. But our UPass data crashed through the floor. We went to nothing, and then we got laptops out to students. I teach a renewable energy class, and so we were in person. And I remember the last day where I was like, this is the last day we're going to be, in the same room for a while. And sure enough, it was, they graduated their adjoining solar class online. The whole thing was via laptops. And we had a really good, in terms of modality, changeover from in-person to via Zoom University, like everybody else. We did it pretty decently quick because we got a crack IT team, and they got laptops distributed. They got us up and running on different platforms. They got everybody trained. They did monumental work. And CPS actually ended up taking a fair amount of lessons from that in terms of how they got their laptops in students' hands and things like that. So we're happy to be guinea pigs in learning how to do something new. And then, because students couldn't find their socks, like I couldn't find my socks for a while, they didn't take their U-passes. They didn't pick them up. So we had them mailed in the next semesters. We went to a per-use model instead of an overall every full-time student like we had previously done. And we moved it all to like how we were doing the part-time student pilot, where we only paid for the ones we used. And that worked out great. And semester by semester, it's just growing. Number of students that are picking up their U-Pass. This is another tool in the toolbox for our commuters, commuting students. And also one of the trends I saw is, more outdoor locations. So, being on Zoom in your room is a little bit silly, if you could take a walk while on a call. And now it seems like we're getting back to like you have to be in a set place while you're on a Zoom meeting, and I don't like it. I want to get back to where we were like, I'm walking around during this meeting, and people are like, that's great. You're expressing individuality. And now they're like, why aren't you at your desk? So let's take the lessons from COVID. Let's not just, give right back in. One of my favorite places to visit from our renewable energy class was Sweetwater Foundation. Emmanuel Pratt runs an incredible organization down there, and just east of 9094, between like 55th and 57th Street. Beautiful garden area. And he said, he was like, during the pandemic, he's like, we've doubled everything. Everything's great down here because like they grow their own food, and they have like an organically progressive environment, and they just, it all worked out. It all worked out because that's what people needed. Connection, outdoors, doing things, and that's what we need for our lives too. So it's great to see people rediscovering bikes. It's great. I have a slide that since I didn't have my slides, it's like, but I have a bike, and it's like a picture of a bike in a basement that's all like dusty and the wheels are broken, and you haven't sent it over to Working Bikes yet to get its next life. So students are still hybrid. We're still learning how to do the some Zoom University, come in for your labs. It's a creative tension, but there's so much of our applied engineering classes, like it helps to be in person. So, but we learned we can do online classes more than we had in the past, and just like everybody who's in the room, you can do online work just like you could in the past. It's just now everybody's boss is okay with it. It's also going to democratize the way we think about applied engineering classes, like bike repair, or intro to manufacturing, or intro to plumbing, or intro to HVAC, or intro to construction. All those classes should be gen eds, just like intro to theater is, just like intro to archaeology is, just like intro to marketing, or there's an othering of working with your hands that needs to end, and we need to understand the academic value of it. So hopefully we'll see that.
Thanks, John. I think that's a great segue. Earlier you mentioned the Olive Harvey College getting a new divvy bike share station on the far south side, and that announcement actually came at the same time that the college would be offering a new bicycle maintenance and mechanics course, which is designed to help students learn how to do repairs, both for personal use as well as for potential employment opportunities. So this is a question for you, Trevor. Can you speak a bit to how you see bike mechanic skills being an important pathway for workforce development, and how do these skills help youth address barriers to employment?
Well, there's a big need for mechanics. So as you're talking about how things changed with the pandemic, um, bikes became even more popular. Like, we love bikes as a tool of transportation, helps you get where you need to go. When the pandemic hit, everybody else realized that as well, and it was a really safe way to get around. We do a lot of local donations, usually mediated by partners in Chicago. And when the pandemic hit, the first request we had, not through a partnership, was from a nurse on the north side whose bike was stolen and didn't feel comfortable using public transportation. So we got her a bike so she could get to the hospital and not expose others or be exposed herself. So when everybody was thinking bikes and the supply chain kind of collapsed, the need for mechanics to either work on bikes that were already here in Chicago and needed to be repaired, or refurbish bikes put together, was very acute, and there were just not enough skilled mechanics around. Wages were pretty low, so we knew then that training people would allow more people to access these opportunities and ultimately help the bike culture in Chicago get more bikes on the road. So our mechanic training program was a small effort to that end. I hope that others, Westtown Bikes is an awesome nonprofit, they train mechanics. Blackstone, fingers crossed that they get up and running again and help train mechanics, because the need is out there. This year's been a little bit slow, but it's still about a 3-week turnaround if you need your bike tuned up. And if there were more mechanics out there, more people in these good jobs, that could shorten and we'd get more people on the streets.
Thanks so much. Well, we're closing in on the end of our session, but wanted to open up to questions from the audience.
Thank you, everybody, very much. That was excellent. A question for Christopher. Regarding those 10 vouchers, they're $15 each with Lyft, correct? Is there like I know the students get that, but is there some kind of student fee internally, or is that just something within school tuition they get?
Well, that's a great question. This was kind of, I'm not going to say all of a sudden. With everything that was going on during the pandemic, in the city of Chicago and every major city, the need for supplemental service was needed immediately for various reasons. I'm not going to go over the reasons, but so it was implemented. Now, does that mean it was included with tuition, or honestly, I don't know. But it was needed, and it just happened. We made it happen. Higher ups said we need this service. Get it going. So I can't really answer to that. I apologize. If their students if it's coming out of their tuition or not. But all I can say is they're getting it, and they're using it to death.
Sorry. Hey there. Thank you. I'm actually a student at the University of Chicago. And I could definitely attest to the fact that the programs are working, especially the introduction of the Lyft program in the fall was great, given the circumstances that I think you're alluding to. I think students have really gravitated towards it. My question's for all of you guys. I think it's interesting. These students tend to use these programs within their communities, whether it's the divvy bikes, the lifting around at night, and sometimes to get into the city from like Hyde Park and stuff like that. What are your thoughts? How do you think your programs could be utilized for, like, let's say if I'm commuting into downtown, explorations into other parts, other neighborhoods, other communities in between? So rather than it being a solely inter-community sort of program or something from one side of the city to the other, how do you think, what can be explored in terms of creating other sort of incentives to, especially for younger students who are newer to the area, to explore other parts of the city to not view it as a like an origin and destination sort of service, something part of leisure and whatnot.
I can speak to a little bit of that from U Chicago. That has been brought up. We have a feedback form online for just questions, input, concerns, complaints, you name it. And we have quite a few students who have class downtown at the Bleacher Center and other areas and whatnot. And initially our program is for the Hyde Park, Woodlawn, Kenwood area. Of course, we have to start somewhere. But we see what's being asked. So we are actually working on some plans to try to get our program for those who need to get downtown, mainly the Bleacher Center, other areas that classes are taken by graduate students, to have it available as well. We're hoping. We're working on it. That's all I can really say about it, but it is not ignored. But we had to make sure we took care of the general campus area right off the bat. And expansion is going to follow eventually, of course.
Topic to that. If you ride a bike, you can stop anywhere on the route. It's a really nice way to experience Chicago, get to know the people around you. And we're completely flat here in Chicago, so it's really easy to get around. And if you want to come to Working Bikes, we got free food also and cold brew. Good destination on the route.
Okay. I have a question for Lyft. By the way, the bikes look great, the new e-bikes. When you start rolling those out, are you going to be doing the charging stations, not just Divvy, but around the country, like electrified, or are there any plans that Lyft has to maybe go outside of the rack system and maybe use city or private parking facilities to put charging stations to kind of expand the network outside the streets?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in Chicago, we've actually rolled out the first 5 charging stations at our docked bike share systems. So if you are riding an e-bike and the battery dies, instead of that bike sitting at the dock waiting for someone in an operations van to come with a new battery and swap it out with a fresh battery, it'll actually charge on site. And this is something we're really excited about. Chicago is our first market where we're testing it, but we think that given the popularity of e-bikes and just the additional costs associated with operating e-bikes, being able to charge on site at stations is really critical to scaling e-bike adoption. So this is something we're looking to do across the country. And I think especially looking at federal legislation like Build Back Better, there's a lot of money going towards electric vehicle car charging. And we would love to see some of that momentum get directed to electric micromobility and see how electric bike share charging could fit into that network and vision as well. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I think we'll call the session, but please feel free to come up and talk to us afterwards, and thank you so much for attending.